Okay, May 30th, 2 Samuel 15:23 through 16:23. And all the country wept with a loud voice, and all the people crossed over. The king himself also crossed over the brook Kidron, and all the people crossed over toward the way of the wilderness. There was Zadok also of the Levites with him, bearing the ark of the covenant of God. And they set down the ark of God, and Abner went up until all the people had finished crossing over from the city. Then the king said to Zadok, "Carry the ark of God back into the city. If I find favor in the eyes of the Lord, he will bring me back and show me both it and the dwelling place. If he says thus, I have no delight in you, here I am, let him do to me what seems good to him." The king also said to Zadok the priest, "Are you not a seer? Return to the city in peace, and your two sons with you, Asmon, Ersan, and Jonathan the son of Esbar. See, I will wait in the plains of the wilderness until word comes from you to inform me." Therefore Zadok and Abner carried the ark of God back to Jerusalem, and they remained there. So David went up by the ascent of the Mount of Olives and wept as he went up. And remember, we talked about that's where Jesus and his disciples went up to Gethsemane. They crossed the brook Kidron, and he went up to the Mount of Olives and wept as he went, as Christ went up, stressed, because he knew what was coming, what he had to get done. And just like um, Christ, David said, "Now let the ark return back, and if God finds delight in me, he'll bring me back." Just as Christ, when he died on the cross, if God, he found delight in him because he was God, it was a prophecy that he was going to come back. There's all kinds of pictures all through the whole Old Testament of uh, what Jesus was going to do for us. And he went with his head covered and went barefoot. And all the people who were with him covered their heads and went up, weeping as they went. Then someone told David, saying, "Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom." And David said, "O Lord, I pray, turn the counsel of Absalom into foolishness." Now it happened when David had come to the top of the mountain where he worshipped God, there was Hushi the Archite coming to meet him with his robe torn and dust on his head. And David said to him, "If you go with me, then you will become a burden to me. But if you return to the city and say to Absalom, I will be your servant, O king, as long as I was with your father's servant previously, so will now also be your servant. Then you may defeat the council of Espel for me. And do you not have Zadok and Esper the priest with you there? Therefore it will be that whatever you hear from the king's house, you shall tell Zadok and Asper the priest. Indeed, they have there with them their two sons, Asmal, Zadok's son, and Jonathan, Abar's son, and by them you shall send me everything you hear." So Hushai, David's friend, went into the city, and Absalom came into Jerusalem. When David was a little past the top of the mountain, there was Ziba, the servant of Mizpah, who met him with a couple of saddled donkeys, and on them 200 loaves of bread, 100 clusters of raisins, 100 summer fruits, and the skin of wine. And the king said to Ziba, "What do you mean to do with these?" And Ziba said, "The donkeys are for the king's household to ride on, the bread and the summer fruit for the young men to eat, and the wine for those who are faint in the wilderness to drink." Then the king said, "And where is your master's son?" And Ziba said to the king, "Indeed, he is staying in Jerusalem, for he said, 'Today the house of Israel will restore the kingdom to my father to me.'" So the king said to Ziba, all that belongs to Mephibosheth is yours." And Ziba said, "I humbly bow before you, that I might find favor in your sight, O Lord, O king, my Lord, O king." Then when King David came to Bethshurim, there was a man from the family of the house of Saul, whose name was Shemel, the son of Gera, coming from there. He came out cursing continually as he came, and he threw stones at David and all the servants of the king of King David, and all the people and all the mighty men were on his right hand and on his left. Also, Shamil said thus when he cursed, come out, you bloodthirsty man, you rogue. The Lord has brought upon you the blood of all the house of Saul, in whose place you have reigned. And the Lord has delivered the kingdom into the hand of Absalom your son. So now you are caught in your own evil, because you are a bloodthirsty man. Then Aphishi, son of Zerah, said to the king, why should this dead dog curse the Lord the king? Please let me go over and take off his head. But the king said, what have I to do with you, you sons of Zerah? So let him curse, because the Lord has said to him, curse David. Whom then shall say, why have you done so? And David said to Eshi and all of his servants, see how my son who came from my own body seeks my life, how much more? And now may this Benjamite let him alone and let him curse, for so the Lord has ordered him. It may be that the Lord will look upon my affliction, and the Lord will repay me with good for the cursing this day. And as David and his men went along the road, Shemiel went along the hillside opposite him, cursing as he went, threw stones at him and kicked up the dust. Now the king and all the people who were with him became weary, so they refreshed themselves there. Meanwhile, Absalom and all the people of the men of Israel came to Jerusalem, and Ahithophel was with him. And so it was when Hushi the Achronite, David's friend, came to Absalom, that Hushi said to Absalom, long live the king, long live the king. And Absalom said to Hushai, is this your loyalty to your friend? Why do you not go with your friend? And Hushi said to Absalom, no, but whom the Lord has, and this people and all the men of Israel choose, his I shall be, and with him I will remain. Furthermore, whom shall I serve? Should I not serve in the presence of his son, as I served in the Father's presence? So I will be in your presence. Then Absalom said to Asphel, give advice as to what we should do. And Asphel said to Absalom, go to your father's concubines, whom he has left on to keep on the house, and all Israel will hear that you abhorred by your father. Then the hands of all those who are with you will be strong. So they pitched the tents for Absalom on the top of the house, and Absalom went in to his father's concubines in the sight of all Israel. Now the advice of Asphel, which he gave in those days, was as if one is acquired from the oracle of God. So was all the advice of Asahel, both with David and Absalom. John 18:25 through 19:22. Now Simon Peter stood and warmed himself. Therefore he said to him, are you not also one of his disciples? You are not also one of his disciples, are you? He denied it and said, I am not. One of the servants of the high priest, a relative of him whose ear Peter cut off, did I not see you in the garden with him? Peter then denied it again, and immediately the rooster crowed. Then they led Jesus from Caiaphas to the Patrium, and it was early in the morning. But they themselves did not go into the Patrium, lest they should be defiled, but that they might eat the Passover. Pilate went out to them and said, what is the accusation do you bring against this man? And they answered and said, if he were not an evildoer, would we not have delivered him up to you? Then Pilate said to them, said to take them, you take him and judge him according to your law. Therefore the Jews said to him, it is not lawful for us to put anyone to death. This that was that the saying of Jesus might be fulfilled. She spoke, signifying by what death he would die. Because remember in the law that blasphemy, they could stone them, and stoning was the way that the Old Testament said to kill people, to execute people, but Roman law would not allow them to let the Jews have the right to execution. Only the Romans would, and the Romans' execution would be by the cross, which was what Jesus predicted. Then Pilate entered the Petrium again and called Jesus to him, said, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus answered him, are you speaking for yourself about this, or did others tell you this concerning me? Pilate answered, am I a Jew? Your own nation, the chief priests, have delivered you to me. What have you done? What have you done? Jesus answered, My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would fight, so that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now my kingdom is not from here. Pilate therefore said to him, Are you a king then? Jesus answered, You say rightly that I am a king. For this cause I was born, and for this cause I have come into the world, that I shall bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice. Pilate said to him, What is truth? And when he had said this, he went out again to the Jews and said to them, I find no fault in him at all. But you have a custom that I should release someone to you at Passover. Do you therefore want me to release to you the king of the Jews? Then they cried again, saying, Not this man, but Barabbas. Now Barabbas was a robber. So Pilate took Jesus and scourged him. And the soldiers twisted a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and they put him in a purple robe. Then they said, Hail to the King of the Jews, and struck him with their hands. Pilate went out again and said to them, Behold, I am bringing him out to you, that you may know that I find no fault in him. Then Jesus came out wearing the crown of thorns and purple robe, and Pilate said to them, Behold the man. Therefore, when the chief priests and the officers saw him, they cried out, saying, Crucify him, crucify him. Pilate said to them, You take him and crucify him, for I find no fault in him. The Jews answered, We have a law, and according to our law, he ought to die, because he made himself the Son of God. Therefore, when Pilate heard that saying, he was more afraid, and went again to the praetorium, and said to Jesus, Where are you from? But Jesus gave him no answer. Then Pilate said to them, Are you not speaking to me? Do you not know I have the power to crucify you and the power to release you? Jesus answered, You could have no power at all against me unless it had been given to you from above. Therefore, the one who delivered me to you has the greater sin. From then on, Pilate sought to release him, but the Jews cried out, saying, If you let this man go, you are not Caesar's friends. Whoever makes himself king speaks against Caesar. When Pilate heard that saying, he brought Jesus out and sat down in the judgment seat in the place called the pavement, but in Hebrew, Gabbatha. Now it was the preparation day of the Passover, about the 6th hour, and he said to the Jews, Behold your king. But they cried out, away with him, crucify him. Pilate said to them, Shall I crucify your king? And the chief priests answered, We have no king but Caesar. Then he delivered him to them to be crucified, and they took Jesus and led him away. And he, bearing his cross, went out to the place called the place of the skull, which is called in Hebrew Golgotha, where they crucified him, and two others with him, one on either side of Jesus in the center. Now Pilate wrote a title and put it on the cross, and the writing was, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. Then many of the Jews read this title, for the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and it was written in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. Therefore the chief priests and the Jews said to Pilate, Do not write the King of the Jews. But he said, I am the King of the Jews. Pilate answered, What I have written, I have written. Psalms 119, 113 through 28. Shemek, I hate the double minded, but I love your law. You are my hiding place and my shield. I hope in your word. Depart from me, you evildoers, for I will keep the commandments of my God. Uphold me according to your word, that I may live. And do not let me be ashamed of my hope. Hold me up, that I should be safe, and I will observe your statutes continually. You reject all those who stray from your statutes, for their deceit is falsehood. You put away the wicked of the earth like dross. Therefore I love your testimonies. My flesh trembles up for fear of you, and I am afraid of your judgments. A.N. I have done justice and righteousness, and do not lead me to my oppressors, for surely your servant is, for your servant for good. But surely for your servant for good. Do not let the proud oppress me. My eyes fail from seeking your salvation and your righteous word. Deal with your servant according to your mercy, and teach me your statutes. I am your servant. Give me understanding, that I may know your testimonies. It is time for you to act, O Lord, for they have regarded your law as void. Therefore I love your commandments, yes, more than fine gold. Therefore your precepts concerning all things I consider to be right. I hate every false way. Proverbs 16:10 through 11. Divination is on the lips of the king. but his mouth must not transgress in judgment. Honest weights and scales are the Lord's. The weights in the bags are his work. All right. See y'all tomorrow.